Conundrum Audio presents Room 571 by Nick Thacker. Produced by Nick Thacker and Conundrum Publishing. Copyright 2023 by Nick Thacker. For more awesome thrillers and amazing audiobooks, visit www.conundrumpublishing.com.
1. It was nice not to be shot at for once. His entire professional life, thus far, could be summed up in a few words: running from people trying to shoot him. He breathed a deep breath of artificially scented air through his nose. The Swiss hotel room was exactly what he expected a fancy hotel room to be: pleasant, well decorated, and luxuriously suitable for temporary lodgings. But it would undoubtedly feel awkward and out of place as someone's home. He examined his surroundings, squinting intensely. To be fair, he had only seen places like this in movies. He had never stayed in one. His experience in hotels was mostly limited to establishments where he was fortunate if there was a single donut or scone available at the continental breakfast the following morning, or a hot tub that was lukewarm, full of other people's dirt and grime, hotels that offered the bare minimum amenities needed for a one-night stay. To him, hotel stays were not supposed to be pleasurable experiences, but a means to an end. He lingered near the doorway, drinking in every detail. His gaze trailed towards the ceiling, noting the decorative elements. What were those things called? Crown moulding? A huge flat-screen television displayed a slow-motion video of the hotel grounds. An infinity pool, hovering over the edge of a massive cliff the hotel was perched on. An ornate lobby, a chandelier-clad conference area. His name danced across it, superimposed over the scene. It wasn't the most personal human way of welcoming him, but he knew it was the thought that counted. Welcome, room 571, Shane Riley. A single coffee pot was neatly placed on a table alongside an assortment of cups, 2 paper, 2 glass. Everything was neatly wrapped in plastic and set on a large doily. Shrugging off his backpack, he threw it onto the bed, watching it land softly, delicately even, on the duvet. Is that what those things are called? He always got the words duvet and bidet confused. French wasn't his strong suit. He attempted to feel annoyance. He found it to be the easiest emotion to summon, but he was having trouble. This place was impressive. Wainscoting reached a third of the way up the wall, with ornate floral wallpaper stretching from there to the ceiling on all 4 walls. He wandered around the room, examining the bathroom, and finding it even more spacious and well appointed than the pictures had suggested. He walked back to the door and pulled it open, poking the little nubby inside the door into the nubby holder on the wall. Again, French wasn't his strong suit, so it would stay open. He suddenly wished he'd brought Kate with him. She was swamped with a special project in her genetic engineering research department at the university. However, taking Friday and Monday off for a long, luxurious weekend wouldn't have been too much trouble. But Shane was also working. He wasn't here for leisure. Trained in the Australian Special Forces, and as a member of the Australian 2nd Commando Regiment, he had travelled plenty, but he had left that job a little over a year ago. Making his own way and seeing the world, he was hoping to set himself up as a retrieval specialist. He wasn't entirely sure what that entailed. He was making it up as he went along, but he knew he could handle it. By his definition, he wanted to be the guy who found and retrieved valuable items for others. Prized possessions, art, collectibles, essentially anything worth good money, anything someone else wished to claim as their own. He recognised the moral grey area of this line of work, but had chosen not to ponder too deeply those sorts of questions. He would accept jobs on a case-by-case basis, gauging if he was working for the good guys, and generally hoping he was. This would, hopefully, lead to his first paid gig. The Swiss hotel was hosting a gala, or as Shane had described it to Kate, a fancy event full of rich people who want things. Some of those things Shane knew were things he could procure for a price. But he was not able to contemplate more on the matter, because a moment later someone pulled him back into the life he'd thought he'd left behind. Was he being shot at? The bullets began to fly freely and loudly. Shane sprang into action, reacting on instinct. He flung his body onto the floor, hearing gunshots pepper a far wall in the hallway behind him. Why did I leave the door open again? At least 2 shooters, one on each side of the corridor. Lying prone and facing away from the door, he listened carefully. His pack was on the bed, 3 feet away, a Glock inside. He pulled himself toward it, lifted his torso over the edge, and snatched the bag, dragging it to the floor. He didn't want to risk any stray shots piercing his hotel room and hitting him. He found the Glock a moment later, unloaded but ready. He reached a magazine in the inside pocket and slid it into the base of the gun. He then pivoted, putting his back against the edge of the bed. Nice mattress, he mused. After a day of travel, he was craving a nap, but sleep would have to wait. His job had started sooner than expected. Shane stayed still for another 5 seconds, straining his ears for any telltale sounds. The firing had ceased, but he hadn't heard the sound of retreating footsteps or a body collapsing. He remembered surveying the carpeted plush hallway, much like he had done here in this room. The thick carpet would muffle someone's footsteps, making them practically inaudible inside this room unless they were purposefully creating a racket. Similarly, the carpet would also absorb the sound of a body dropping after being shot. That meant someone was still out there. One of the 2 shooters was still alive, and possibly a figure flashed across his doorway. But it wasn't a gunman. All Shane saw were legs, long slender legs peeking out provocatively from a high slit in a sequined light green gown. The gown was perfectly accented by large loop earrings dangling from her ears. The woman's skin was dark, and Shane tried to take a mental snapshot as she passed, but he froze when she halted just outside his door. How did she see me? The woman had been moving quickly, not quite running, but certainly not walking leisurely. She seemed to be in a rush, and perhaps had merely gotten lucky, glancing in his direction as she passed his room. "Shane Riley?" she asked. Or, he considered, she knew I was here and had been looking for me the whole time. He swallowed, nodding awkwardly from his position on the floor by the bed. "What are you doing? We don't have time. Get up!" He attempted to place her accent. It wasn't American, but her English was good. Danish, Norwegian, Swiss. Of course she could just be from around here. Did those accents even sound the same? He guessed it could be Russian or Ukrainian too. He'd never been good with languages. He knew a bit of Korean, Spanish, French and Japanese, but that was primarily because he'd wanted to learn how to order a beer in each of those countries during his time with the Australian military. He began to stand, using the bed for support. Apparently, he wasn't moving quickly enough. "Hurry!" she barked again, her gaze darting down the hallway. He wondered why she didn't just come into the room, if she was worried about another shooter. The deafening sound of her weapon, a subcompact carbine 9mm firing 3 quick rounds, snapped him out of his thoughts. She nodded once, then turned back to him. It seemed that any threat she had spotted had been sufficiently dealt with. 2. As soon as Shane's left foot hit the carpet outside his door, the woman seized his shoulder, spun him around and shoved his back against the wall. Her forearm lodged just beneath his neck, pinning him and nearly choking him. He strained against her surprising strength. Given her slight figure, he squirmed a bit, then understood that she was shielding him. 4 shots echoed down the hall, punching through the wall next to Shane's open door. He pushed off the wall as soon as her elbow and forearm relaxed, fumbling with his Glock. He transferred it to his good hand and dropped to one knee, surveying the hallway in the opposite direction as the woman. They knelt side by side, back to back, each covering opposite ends of the corridor, ready for any more assailants. 2 from my side, 1 from yours, she murmured. Her voice was clipped, low enough that only Shane could hear. This woman was seasoned, trained. She knew what she was doing, controlling her breath, preempting the adrenaline surge. "Affirmative." He wanted to add, "Who the hell are you?" and "Who the hell is shooting at us?" But those were questions for later. They navigated the corridor, the woman walking backward adjacent to Shane's right shoulder, both keeping their weapons trained down their view of the hallway. They reached the end without more gunfire, but Shane was anticipating at least one more assailant from either side. As if reading his mind, the woman said, "He was on the right side before, but he may have darted across before I looked back that way." Shane nodded. As he edged toward the corner of the corridor, he tried to visualize the layout on the other side of the door. There would be a stairwell, probably a landing, and his memory of the building's exterior suggested stairs running both directions, leading upward and downward. That meant any adversary ascending or descending the stairs on the other side would have a direct shot into the hallway. Not ideal, but he could handle it. Not to mention this enigmatic woman who had kept him alive so far, and seemed keen on keeping him that way, could also handle it. She was both captivating and proficient. Who was she? And why was she here? Shane hadn't anticipated company. He'd expected this to be a typical check-in at a hotel, just like anywhere else in the world. Sure, he was here for work. The art auction scheduled for the next morning was to take place in the hotel's grand atrium, but he wasn't aware of any pieces that would provoke this level of hostility. Clearly, he'd stumbled into a situation that had been simmering long before his arrival. The woman made a two-fingered gesture over her eyes, then indicated one side of the stairwell. He nodded briskly, reaching out to pull the door handle. He waited until a soft click sounded, then threw his left shoulder into the door. Stealth was not an option here, nor was there an opportunity for a proper surprise attack. The woman dashed through the open doorway before Shane, covering the right side. He trailed behind, pivoting to the left on the other side of the doorway, only to find the landing and stairwell below deserted. "Clear," she whispered. He echoed the word, then stole a glance at her, while keeping his Glock aimed down the stairs, awaiting her next command. It was clear he was not in control here. He was aiding her in whatever this situation was. "Let's move up," she suggested. "We need to get to the roof." He didn't argue. He didn't know why they had to reach the roof, and didn't fancy the idea of a prolonged excursion through the hotel, but he had decided not to dispute her. Whatever he had walked into, survival was certainly preferable to the alternative. Staying with her seemed to mean staying alive. Shane followed her, ascending the stairs to the right of the doorway. As they ascended, more noise erupted from behind them. 2 gunshots peppered the other side of the doorway. 1 bullet pierced through the wall separating the stairs and landing from the rest of the corridor. It appeared their pursuers preferred to shoot first and rely on a lucky ricochet rather than conserving ammunition. In other words, whoever was shooting at them really wanted him dead. Or maybe it was this woman they were after. Shane hadn't even seen their attackers yet. He didn't know who they were or why they were shooting. The only thing he did know was that he had now landed himself squarely on their hit list. As they ascended and rounded the set of stairs to the next floor, Shane wondered if he had made a mistake by following her. Perhaps he had inadvertently allied himself with someone he would have preferred to avoid. But she had known his name. She had come straight to his door, seeming to anticipate the attack before it had started. They arrived at the 6th floor moments later, once again positioned on either side of the heavy metal stairwell access door. This time the door would swing towards them, opening into the landing. "Do we need to stop here? If we're heading to the roof, shouldn't we just keep going upstairs?" he asked. She shook her head. "We have to get to the other side of the hallway first." "Why?" She remained silent, offering no further explanation. Shane shrugged and waited for her to pull open the door so he could check the hallway. The woman eased the handle, similar to what Shane had done downstairs. This time Shane led the way, initially peeking through the gradually widening crack to ensure no one was waiting for them outside this corridor. 3. Making it across the hallway was easier said than done. As they darted onto the carpeted corridor of this floor, Shane caught sight of 3 hotel patrons. One man walking towards them, and a couple, a man and woman, exiting a room. As Shane and his companion burst into the hallway, all 3 individuals looked up, startled. "Shit!" Shane glanced at the woman he was running alongside but didn't have time to ask questions. She raised her pistol and fired 2 quick shots, taking out the man just as he turned and let the door close behind him. What the hell?" Shane stuttered. But the gown-wearing killer was still moving, still charging forward. Suddenly Shane saw why. The woman, the one he'd thought had been merely a hotel guest, swiftly dove forward onto her knees, producing a silenced PPK and aiming it at them. Shane fired quickly, clipping her leg and spinning the woman around. Meanwhile, his partner was targeting the lone man farther down the hall, who had also drawn a weapon. It was another silenced pistol that Shane couldn't identify from his distance, but she hit him in the chest twice before he could fire. His gun flew backward, clanging loudly against a light fixture before falling to the floor. The man stumbled but didn't fall, causing Shane to wonder if he was wearing some kind of body armor. His focus returned to the woman, still kneeling, but now turned so she was facing the opposite wall in the hallway, her side exposed to Shane. He fired one more shot, this time hitting her between the ribs under her right arm. She gasped, dropping her weapon as she slid to the side. Blood dribbled over her bottom lip, her eyes wide open in shock. Shane's new friend barreled past the dying woman, seemingly unfazed, on her way to finish off the other man. He was reaching down, pulling up his pant leg to reveal a small holstered pistol. She landed a shot just above his collarbone. Since he was leaning forward to retrieve his weapon, the bullet likely travelled deep into the soft tissue, piercing vital organs. He crumpled forward, then dead, before he hit the floor. "Come on," she called over her shoulder, as if they were on nothing more than a casual stroll to the hotel pool. Shane nearly froze, stunned by what he had just done, but he forced himself to keep moving. He had no idea who he was shooting at, who was trying to kill him, and this strange assassin who'd found him. But as he'd concluded earlier, she was the only one making an effort to keep him alive. They reached the end of this hallway, and Shane was preparing to follow her through the door to the landing on the opposite side of the hotel wing, when he heard the click of a door. He turned, dropping to a knee and readying his weapon. A man wearing a hotel bellhop uniform poked his head out, just like the other two had pretended to be guests. Shane squinted down the side of his pistol, aiming. From this distance, a mere 20 feet, he wasn't going to miss. "Stop," she ordered. Shane hesitated, then felt the woman slap his arm down, forcing his weapon to lower as well. "What the hell?" The man exited the room fully, pulling a cart filled with suitcases behind him. "He's part of the staff," she said softly from behind Shane. "Obviously." Shane stared, still suspicious, waiting for the man to reveal a concealed weapon from beneath his bellhop jacket. After another second, he spun around, facing her. For the first time, she seemed to look directly at him, as if truly seeing him for the first time today. Obviously, was that sarcasm? "Stop wasting time," she added, turning around again and starting up the stairs. Shane shook his head in disbelief. "It was obvious," he muttered to himself, baffled. What on earth was going on? He disregarded the bellhop, the man's frightened expression, and the rolling cart of luggage coming towards them as he allowed the door to the stairwell landing to shut. The elevators were just off to the left, but once again the woman had other plans. He groaned as he fell into step behind her, watching as she ascended the staircase to the right. "At least tell me your name," Shane pleaded, striving to maintain composure. He tried his best not to let his heavy rhythmic breaths betray the fact that he was pushing his body to its limits. They had ascended 3 flights of stairs quicker than Shane had ever managed before. The woman seemed to float effortlessly, simply placing one foot in front of the other and lifting upward as if propelled by invisible strings attached to the stairwell ceiling. "Nadia," she finally responded. "And," Shane huffed, attempting to catch his breath, "where are you from?" "Here." Shaking his head in disbelief, Shane couldn't help but think this was some bizarre dream. He couldn't afford to stop and pinch himself, but he was well aware of the reality. No dream had ever been realistic enough to leave him panting, gasping for breath. Tomorrow, he would wake up with muscle aches and pains to prove it, if he made it to tomorrow. Suddenly, Nadia fired 2 shots upward. Shane heard the unmistakable thud of a large human body hitting the floor on the landing above. The shots themselves were deafening, and he worked his jaw, trying to clear his hearing as he rounded the landing below. He paused there, waiting. Nadia motioned him forward. "Let's keep moving. I got him." Taking in a quick breath, Shane finally asked the question that had been gnawing at him for the last few minutes. "Who the hell are these people? Why do they want to kill us?" "Not me," she retorted swiftly. "You. 4. "Why me?" he asked. Silence was the only answer he got. Typical. Instead of responding, Nadia lunged forward once more, scaling the steps 2 at a time. Unbelievable, Shane thought. You've got to be kidding. She's like a circus act. Shane was undeniably fit. Years of military training, mission experience, and an active off-duty lifestyle had kept his body lean and muscular. He wasn't as light as Nadia, but what he lacked in agility, he made up for in strength. Apparently, though, his cardio had been lacking. Feeling beads of sweat emerging on his forehead, he wiped them with the back of his right sleeve. If he had known that he would be racing up 15 flights of stairs while fending off mercenaries trying to kill him, he would have opted for a short-sleeve shirt and shorts, maybe even a tank top, a swimsuit perhaps. That would eliminate the need for underwear. Shane attempted to picture himself running upstairs in flip-flops and a swimsuit, dressed for the pool. Okay, he conceded. He was glad to at least be wearing boots that wouldn't fly off at the slightest provocation. They ascended 3 more flights of stairs, arriving at the 12th level. He recalled the building being 15 floors tall from what he remembered seeing on the elevator button panel upon checking in. Still, his mind could have been playing tricks on him. Perhaps the first 2 floors were underground. Perhaps he hadn't seen 15 but only 13, or even 12. Please God, make it only 12 floors. Nadia surged 2 stair sets ahead of him, putting an entire floor between them as she quickened her pace up to the 10th and 11th floors. At the 12th floor landing, she stopped. Shane too paused, standing below her on the 11th floor landing. They hadn't encountered any more people, bellhops or assassins, and Shane hoped that by the sound of her stopping, it meant she was finally ready for a break. "What are you doing?" she asked suddenly. "Pick it up, I stopped to wait for you." Shane rolled his eyes, high enough into his forehead that he figured she could see it even from 1 floor above. She didn't say anything else. Ignoring her command momentarily, Shane took the opportunity to catch his breath, or at least try to. His body was keeping up, but his lungs were at capacity. He took several deep inhales, trying to take advantage of this temporary respite from the overexertion. "Hello?" she called out again. Rolling his eyes again, Shane started up the next set of stairs. "You know, if you're going to order me around, it would be helpful to at least... And if you want to live, follow me," she said, cutting him off. As he climbed the steps between the 11th and 12th floors, Shane could see her standing above him, arms crossed, the carbine dwarfing the hand that held it. To his surprise, she even seemed to be tapping her foot. Who the hell is this chick? He wondered. We're being attacked and she's got the gall to be openly impatient with my progress. "That's from a movie, you know," Shane said. "An old American one. What you should have said was, 'Come with me if you want to live,'" she said, this time not trying to hide her foreign accent. Her impersonation was absolutely horrendous, but the effect was hilarious. He grinned, slowly shuffling up the stairs to her landing. "Is that what you want, Shane Riley?" she asked when he finally reached her level. "Should we see where the theatre is in the hotel? Maybe catch a movie, get some alpine for the flick?" Shane held his hands up, palms out, letting his pistol hang on a finger. "I get it. We've got work to do. They're chasing us. They want me dead. No time for movies, right? But hey, what the hell is alpine? Is that Swiss popcorn or something?" She raised an eyebrow as if to ask, "Are you done?" He nodded, sighing deeply. "I'm done. Carry on." Without another word, she turned and opened the door to the landing. As she held the door open, Shane slid past, holding his Glock out in front of him, waiting for more hotel guests to leave their rooms and start shooting at him. None came. As he hesitantly entered the hallway and started once more towards the opposite side, he wondered again why they had bothered shooting their way through the corridor down below. The answer came from behind him. "There were too many in the landing on the other side," she said. "They should still be making their way down the stairs, but by now they should be on the 2nd or 3rd floor, heading down. That should give us plenty of time to get behind them and head upstairs." Rather than running, they walked briskly down this corridor as she spoke. She matched his pace, her breath just as steady as it had been before. He was still panting. "Roof access will be on that side, which is why we need to get over there and stay there. I assume you didn't look at the building plans before you arrived?" Shane shot her a glance that included a deep, tight squint and scowl. "Plans? When exactly was I supposed to look at plans? And why would I? Should I have known that there would be a team of mercenaries here trying to kill me?" This time she turned and looked at Shane as they walked. "Not mercenaries." "Then who? You keep telling me bits of information that aren't exactly helpful. We don't have to stop moving, but at least tell me what the hell is going on." "The government wants you dead, Shane Riley. They sent people to kill you. It is that simple. I'm here to make sure they don't do that. And I figured since you're trained, you might as well help." "Well, I appreciate that very much," Shane said sarcastically. "So, these government types, why? Not government." "But you said—" "The government wants you dead," she clarified. "But they didn't send their own team. The government here likes to contract this sort of thing out. You know, highest bidder and all that." "I think you mean lowest bidder," Shane countered. "As in, The lowest price gets the government job. She shook her head. They were halfway down the hallway now, and Shane's eyes scanned each doorway as they passed. Every third or fourth doorway, he glanced over his shoulder, looking at the doorway to the landing behind them, to make sure no one snuck up on them from that direction. The woman didn't seem fazed at all. She simply kept walking forward, eyes forward and alert. No, she continued, the government wants this job done right. They did not choose the lowest bidder. That would mean a municipal team, like your SWAT team, or police special unit. Seems pretty corrupt that local police would take a damn assassination job here, Shane remarked. But if it wasn't them, then who is it? You should know. Haven't you heard of Dom Norion? 5. Shane had not in fact heard of Dom Norion. It sounded to him like fancy French champagne. Weren't all champagnes French? No. He and Kate had once shared a bottle he could have sworn was from somewhere else. Shane Riley, pay attention. Shane snapped back to the present, noticing that Nadia was holding open the door for him. He heard footsteps echoing from far below. The metal and concrete stairwell a stark contrast to the lavishly appointed hotel rooms and corridors, amplifying the sound all the way from the lower levels. He stepped through just as she snapped her fingers in his face. He squinted, his mouth twisting into a half scowl. What the hell was that for? I trusted that you could protect yourself. It's the only way we get out of this. I can't do this alone. Are you sure you're up for it? She asked. She eased the door back into its frame, letting it close softly so as not to alert anyone to their presence and location. Am I up for it? You still haven't told me why I'm running for my life. And to be honest, Nadia, it really does seem like you've got this on lock. I'm not sure why you need me at all. She started up the stairs once more, but Shane wasn't done. Also, you think you could go up the stairs a little slower? I get that you're some sort of super assassin or something, but that's still boggling my mind. Even in my days in the service, people like you just didn't exist. Or so I thought. Chicks like you only exist in movies. At this, she stopped completely on the top stair and turned around. She once again looked deep into Shane's eyes as if searching for something there. Chick, I'm no chick. Sorry, I am no assassin. I mean, technically I am, yes, but you're right. I'm not like someone from the movies. What are you then, Nadia? I'm a gymnast. What? A gymnast. You know, floops and spurls and humps, things like that. Shane assumed there had to be something lost in translation from her native tongue, but he rolled with it. Right, you're a gymnast who does floops and spurls and humps. Right. I guess that explains how you're able to run upstairs like they're not even there. This time, she actually giggled. It was cute, girlish, and while her figure and form were certainly in the category anyone would call strikingly beautiful, in no universe would he have described her as girlish. Okay, so we're making progress on the interpersonal front, he thought. That's good news, right? Okay, Nadia the gymnast. You obviously have other training as well. What was it? SVR? Or are you actually from Switzerland? Some special forces group here? She shook her head. Just lucky, I guess. Just lucky, I guess. Nadia, stop with the movie quotes. We're running out of time, Shane Riley. They're going to find out that we went upstairs instead of down, where we were supposed to go. They're expecting us to go somewhere. Why didn't you say that? Can you please let me know what the plan is? If you want me to help you, She continued taking the stairs, just as fast as she had before, annoyingly, but she turned and responded over her shoulder while she ran. We are going to the roof. They think we are going downstairs, where the exits are. Shane nodded. Right. Which does make a logical sort of sense, Nadia. Why wouldn't we go where the exits are? She didn't respond. So, why are we going up? Because there are no exits up there, Shane Riley. 6. Shane wasn't sure how many times he'd rolled his eyes, but it was more than a few. Nadia was frustratingly good at whatever it was she did, killing bad guys, being annoying, and running upstairs. Perhaps she was a gymnast. They reached the top floor of the hotel wing, and Nadia once again pulled the door open for Shane. Why do you want me to go first all the time? He questioned. I thought I was the one they wanted to kill. She grinned at him. It does make my job easier if they kill you, she said. What the hell is that supposed to mean? She just shrugged. shoving him out into the corridor. The top floor of the hotel was the most lavish and well-appointed one Shane had seen yet. The ceiling was glass, letting in tons of natural light that illuminated every square inch of the hallway. Where down below the sconces had been nice but simple, unobtrusive. The lights on the walls here he could only describe as small chandeliers that poked out from the sides and hung down just above the top of his head. Still, they didn't emit any light. There was no need to, with the ceiling being open to the sky. The hallway was also cut short by a beautiful gold-painted winding staircase that curled upward to the right. He assumed there was a similar staircase on the opposite side, and he looked up through the glass to try to see where the stairway led. Though he hadn't studied the plans of this building as Nadia had assumed, he had paid attention to small clues and details upon stepping foot in the lobby atrium earlier. He knew the top floor of this place was where the presidential suite and 5 other grand suites sat, as well as a small ballroom and meeting space just past the staircase. But he also knew that the staircase itself led to an open courtyard perched atop the edge of this wing of the hotel. A private pool and patio lay just outside the doors. At the top of the staircase, he'd seen pictures of it downstairs and saw the infinity pool at the far edge of the building, overlooking a picturesque cliff, with a snaking river far down below. Around the pool were 3 hot tubs, each perched within a veritable forest of plants and flowers, hiding the hot tub's occupants from sight. He wasn't sure where it would be located, but he had seen pictures of a small bar and grill, decorated as if it were an old Roman monument, complete with Ionic columns holding up one side of the open-air structure. He assumed the pool area and deck was an exclusive perk for anyone staying on this top floor of the hotel. A private pool and lounge area for dignitaries and celebrities visiting, or anyone with enough money to justify not having to pay at all. It was one of many bones Shane had to pick with the rich and wealthy class, both in his home country and anywhere else in the West, and pretty much everywhere else in the world. Once a person reached a certain status, as in they had enough money to buy hotels like this, they no longer needed to actually pay for anything when they travelled. Gifts were bestowed upon these people as if they had done something important, world-changing. Their hotel stays would be free, their excursions and meals and entertainment on the house, their flights, first class, on the world's fanciest airlines of course, comped by power brokers. But guys like Shane, guys who were not exactly poor, not exactly rich, had to pay their way everywhere they went. He wondered what Nadia's status was, wherever she hailed from. She had told him she was from here, but he believed that as much as he believed that she was a gymnast. Perhaps she was born in Russia or Ukraine or somewhere nearby. The accent seemed to fit when she let enough slip, but that too could be an act. Perhaps she was as Australian as Shane, pretending to be from somewhere else in the world, putting up a front of mystery and intrigue. But she would have no need to do that around Shane, of course. He had no idea who she was from Adam, or Eve in this case, but he had never met a super-secret assassin-spy gymnast lady before. Perhaps they all had to train as gymnasts in order to walk upstairs quickly enough to prevent being shot at. Maybe they all had special skills, like Liam Neeson, James Bond, or Jason Bourne. What was Liam Neeson's character's name in the movie Taken? He was drawing a blank. Another of Nadia's invasive snaps caught his attention, pulling him away from trying to recall movie details. She raised an eyebrow at him again, but he shook his head quickly. Yeah, I know. Shane slow, gymnast fast. 7. She continued down the hallway, heading directly for the curving stairs that led up to the open-air deck. She reached them and started upward just as the door to the landing behind them burst open. Shots rang out, and Shane involuntarily dove toward the bottom of the golden-painted stairs, landing on the bottom 3. Nadia casually jumped down from the middle of the flight of curved stairs and stepped over his body, landing like a cat on all 4s onto the hallway carpet. She swung her hips forward, coming up onto her knees as she began firing, pushing off the floor to stand. Shane watched her move as he pulled himself up, frustrated that his much larger body was having serious issues complying. No thanks to these hard, curvy stairs. The same stairs that had not so delicately tried to pierce his ribcage. Should have been a gymnast, I guess. He stood up and took the stairs 2 at a time, trying to invoke that gymnast physique. Unfortunately, These stairs were smaller and weirder than the standardized stairs in the stairwells. They curved inward, awkward and narrow, with changing angles as they climbed upward. He slowed, forcing himself to focus on not falling over like an idiot. Down below, Natia fired a few more rounds, then hit the stairs again. He imagined her lithe gymnast body popping off the floor and doing little side flips as she fired perfectly aimed shots at the attackers' foreheads. "You need to stop watching action movies, Shane," he told himself. "They're coming. Hurry." Shane didn't need to be told twice. He was almost at the doorway leading out to the pool deck when more rounds painted the hallway below. He felt and heard the deep thuds of a larger caliber weapon pinging walls and doors. He heard one scream, though it sounded like it was coming from inside one of the suites. He hit the doorway with his upper arm and shoulder, popping the bar to unlatch the door and letting his body weight and momentum push it open. This worked all too well, and he found himself stumbling out into the blinding daylight, trying to catch his balance. Nadia was by his side immediately, grabbing his collar and pulling him upright. When he caught his balance and stood on his own, she whirled around and smacked the door closed. "Find something to keep this latch closed," she ordered. Shane nodded quickly, looking around frantically. The bar was just off to the side, closer to the doorway, and stairs than he had expected. The hot tubs were sprinkled around this upper deck, two of them hiding behind short areca palms and dense foliage to the right side of the bar, with the other one off to the left side of the doorway. He ran over to the bar, his eyes scanning left and right, up and down, observing all the necessary and standard bar fare he expected. Shaker tins sat empty, drying on mats, stacks of white towels next to them, bar spoons of all shapes and sizes and jiggers of different measuring amounts next to them. Stacks of glassware set atop the dishwasher to his left, and just next to that, perfect. He grabbed the object and ran back to Nadia, who was already leaning into her snapping, eyebrow-raising, foot-tapping routine of impatience. "Hold your horses," he said. "Excuse me?" she asked, holding her hand out for the object Shane had retrieved. "It's a phrase. American, I think, though we Aussies have adopted it, and I know what it means." Oh, she was being curt again. Typical. Nadia turned her back to Shane, focusing on the door. The handle was nothing special, but the object Shane had retrieved, a hot poker he had seen used in fancy tiki bars as a way to add flair and nostalgia to old punch drinks, would be a perfect fit. It was heavy too, hopefully made of cast iron and not a cheap knockoff. She shoved it between the handle and the door frame, letting the poker's pokey side extend outward and down, pinning the door closed against the wall next to it. It wouldn't hold forever. The people trying to get through would simply have to wiggle the door a bit to dislodge the poker and let it fall away harmlessly. But it should buy them time. Time? For what, though? "Get in the pool," Nadia said quickly. "Get in the what?" Shane had come to expect short, snappy orders from this woman, but this was one order he never would have expected. "You, want to take a quick dip?" He once again thought of his tank top and flip-flops. Surely she doesn't want a skinny dip. There's no way he'd ever be able to explain that to Kate. "Well, honey, after the assassin gymnast lady who happens to be super hot with a perfect physique saved me, a perfectly capable, trained ex-special forces guy who shouldn't have needed her help in the first place, we reached a luxurious private pool on the top deck of a luxury resort hotel. There was no one around, so she thought it would be fun to jump into the pool. No, honey, we did forget to bring our swimsuits, so we took off all our clothes and..." "Shane Riley!" Her words were like an ice pick, piercing his skull and targeting the back of his brain. He snapped to attention, noticing that Nadia had jumped into the shallow end of the infinity pool. She was already up to her waist in water. He swallowed. Can I ask why we are getting in the pool?" "You can." "Okay, Nadia, why are we getting in the pool?" "Isn't it obvious?" she asked. "This is how we are going to get away." 8. Shane looked left to right. The infinity pool was gorgeous, taking up the entire back half of this upper deck above the top floor. It was a beach entry-style pool where swimmers could walk in, heading down the gentle slope until they were submerged in 5 feet of water at the far end. The infinity end featured a glass wall on 3 sides of the pool, allowing swimmers to feel as though they were at the edge of a cliff. In this case, they were at the edge of a cliff. Shane saw the postcard-style mountain in the distance, the unbelievably beautiful valley scene below. They had to be 1,000 feet in the air, 200 or 300 feet above the ground, with an actual cliff stretching out below that. Sorry, I don't think it's as obvious as you might think, Nadia. Shane waded in as well, the water colder than he expected. Of course, it wasn't exactly summer yet, and certainly didn't feel so in these parts. He remembered their elevation right now being somewhere between high and cold. And if the snow-capped peak in front of him in the distance was any sign, it was still plenty cold enough to give him a chill. He swam to the far edge just as gunshots blasted holes in the metal door leading to the deck. On cue, the tiki poker started rattling in the handle. He felt the sudden urgency return. "You know how these work, right?" Nadia asked, pulling her hand out and motioning toward the pool's edge. "What? The pool? Sure," he said. "Water goes over the glass edge, then collects underneath and gets cycled back into the pool. But are you thinking of hiding under there?" "Nadia, there's not enough of a ledge to hold us. The wall is glass too, so if we hide behind it, they'll easily see us." Nadia tossed her wet gun down, letting it sink to the bottom of the pool. "Shut up. No, I'm not talking about how pools work, I'm talking about this." As if from nowhere, she used her foot to pull up an object that had been sitting at the bottom of this edge of the pool. Shane had not noticed it before, but as it rose to the surface in her hand, he realized he wouldn't have recognized it anyway. He shook his head. "Well then, you get to try something new today, Shane Riley." Well, I'm not much for—" "Shut up," she said again. She pulled the object out of the water, and Shane saw that it was like a tightly compressed duffel bag strapped together with vinyl cords and snaps. She unbuckled the straps, letting the thing unfurl. Shane saw what appeared to be a straitjacket, only it was much lighter material and had parachute-like arms that connected from just behind the hands of the suit all the way down to— "No," he said quickly. "No way. Not on any level of Dante's hell would I—" The door pounded again. More holes appeared in it from more shots. They still hadn't dislodged the poker, but it appeared their new plan was to simply destroy the door entirely. At least enough until they could squeeze through one of the widening holes. "We don't have time to argue, Shane Riley," she said. As she spoke, she slipped into the suit, putting the baggy jacket over her body, shoes and all, then submerging herself underwater to zip it up. When she finished, she handed him a replica, another suit she had pulled from the bottom of the pool. He shot her a dubious look but complied, his fingers slipping on the damp Velcro straps as he struggled. He managed to shimmy into the suit, zipping it up with his teeth and a prayer. He glanced at Nadia, who was treading water at the edge of the infinity pool, her gaze intently focused on the battered door. "Are we really going to—" He started, voice hesitant. Nadia turned to him, her intense green eyes piercing his. "We are. But wait, we're wet. Won't that, affect the wingsuit? Or our ability to fly? Or not plummet to our deaths?" "Actually, no," she said. "The suits are designed to withstand such conditions. And yes, we'll drop initially before the wings unfurl fully due to the water weight, but we'll gain lift soon after. At least, we should." "We should?" Shane looked from her to the terrifying drop beyond the glass wall of the pool, his heart pounding in his chest. "But—" "No buts, Shane," Nadia interrupted, her voice unyielding. "We jump, or we stay here and get shot. Your choice." He swallowed hard, glancing once more at the door, where the pounding and gunshots continued. He turned back to her, the fear in his eyes meeting her unflinching determination. She was climbing up onto the edge of the thick glass, careful not to allow her feet to slip. He followed her lead. "Okay," he nodded, taking a deep breath to steady himself. "Okay, I trust you." Nadia gave him a quick nod, her gaze softening momentarily. Then she was all business again. "Remember, let yourself drop first. When you feel the wind catch your suit, spread your arms and legs. Let the suit do the work. Got it?" He stood precariously on the edge of the infinity pool, staring down into a valley over 1,000 feet below. "No." The door burst open, and the first thing Shane saw was the barrel of a rifle pointing directly at him. "Shit!" He turned to Nadia. "You sure this is safe? The suit really just does the work." She smiled at him, then fell forward, spreading her arms. "Shit, shit, shit." Shane took another deep breath, let it out, and then pushed off, launching himself over the edge of the pool and into the wide open cliff valley, leaving behind the sound of bullets and the splintering door. 9. The crystal blue skies stretched above them as Shane and Nadia descended from their daring leap. The cool mountain air whistled in their ears, filling the silence that hovered between them. Below, the verdant valley, with its lush green trees and rugged terrain, sprawled invitingly. The adrenaline that had coursed through Shane's veins during their leap had settled, replaced now by an immense sense of relief. A glance at Nadia confirmed she too shared the same feelings. Her hair, wild and free in the wind, framed a face flushed with exertion and triumph. The danger they had escaped for now lay far behind them. They landed in a patch of soft grass by a bubbling brook, their wingsuits and the built-in small base parachutes collapsing into loose onesies as they touched down. Nadia was quick to peel off her suit, once again revealing the svelte figure of the assassin he'd grown quite fond of, though her green sequin dress was torn in a few places. Shane mirrored her actions, fumbling with the straps as he tried to wriggle out of his own suit. Once freed, they lay down side by side on the grass, their breathing heavy, gazes fixed on the vast expanse of the sky above. The magnitude of what they had just accomplished started to settle in. The adrenaline of their escape began to fade, replaced with a tangible sense of peace. "Not a bad jump for a first-timer," Nadia said, her voice teasing. Shane chuckled. "Is that your way of giving a compliment?" "Maybe." He turned to look at her, only to find her already looking at him. There was an inexplicable warmth in her eyes, an emotion he hadn't seen before. His heart pounded in his chest, a different kind of adrenaline kicking in. A comfortable silence settled over them, the only sounds being their steady breaths and the chirping of distant birds. But as the seconds ticked on, a question lingered in Shane's mind. "Nadia," he finally broke the silence, "why did they want to kill me?" She turned to him, her green eyes meeting his in a long, steady gaze. "Because of what you mean to them." "And what is that?" "A challenge, a possible threat to their dominance." "Care to elaborate?" She smiled at him, standing up. "No, Shane Riley, I have work to do. I wish you well, but take care not to just rush into things from here on out. People are watching you, Shane Riley. Remember that." He nodded, absorbing her words. The path they'd embarked on was dangerous. For better or worse, their fates were intertwined now. He looked at her, the woman who had become a central part of his world in such a short time, and offered a small smile. "To new beginnings, then," he proposed, raising an imaginary glass. Nadia laughed, mimicking his gesture. "To new beginnings," she echoed. She walked away, disappearing into a brushy area nearby. Shane frowned, watching her leave. Unbelievable. ###. Want to continue the fun? The Shane Riley Adventures continues with Book #1, The Hermit Kingdom. Start reading today.
This has been Room 571 by Nick Thacker. Copyright 2023 by Conundrum Publishing. All rights reserved. ConundrumPub.com.